right, good morning, and welcome to the very first ever episode of Gutted, Good Grief.
Mm.
Um, I am Becca Chafee. I have a background in grief through yoga, senior care, hospice, and many lived experiences. And I am here with Sydney Rose Allen,
Good morning.
the other half of this incredible process, who's an ecosomatic specialist and holder for many. Absolutely exceptional human. So today, we are going to connect briefly on our first ever run through this and just free flow what comes to mind when talking about what it means to us to hold grief and rise through it. So, there are a million different ways to do that. And one of the first ones that is blending us here is actually the discussion of hair.
Yeah.
So, hair across cultures has different meanings. For some people, it means nothing. For some people, it is sacred. For some people, it holds power. And so, Sydney, do you want to kick us off with your beautiful new haircut and talk us through that?
Absolutely. Yeah. I wanted to take it down this morning and I was challenged a little bit by Becca, which I love, to just keep it real. So, yeah, this is my drying haircut. Recently chopped it all off, which is what I do when it's a season of growth. I think grief is a wonderful chance to grow and also sometimes just to root in, to remember the past and stay the same.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. There is something so healing about that. It's interesting to me because I was not raised in a home where hair was held to be anything really sacred. I know in a lot of cultures it is, but in my mind, I've always had hair's hair. It'll grow back. I've had, a pixie cut down to like past my elbows. Like I've just kind of rocked everything in between. And um, why it's so interesting recently is I do recognize that for other cultures it is quite sacred. And so one of the stories I was sharing recently with Sydney was having the opportunity to sit with a panel of women from the Yakama Nation who were sharing their stories about missing and murdered Indigenous women and people. And I was gutted. Literally, I had heard of things like this. I understood that it was what was happening, but there is a lot that's handled by the tribe, a lot that's not public, a lot that's not known. I've never been in an opportunity or in a space to hear somebody's story and what it means to them. And what was fascinating was following that. One of the questions presented to the panel was, like, can you tell us about generational trauma? Like, this all feels so long ago. It feels like ancient history. Why are we still talking about it today? And I was really moved by one of the women who said, yeah, it might feel like ancient history to you, but it's definitely not to me. My grandma grew up in those schools where she was forced into a school and stripped of her culture and her language and really hurt. And she was forced to have her hair cut. So before we'd go to her home, we'd have to tie up our hair. And if it wasn't tied up, she would have sort of a trauma response and get really anxious. And so my sister one day didn't want to tie up her hair. She was little, she was fighting it, and she went with this big fluffy hair. And my grandma grabbed her by the hair and cut it off. She was not trying to be mean. She was in a trauma response trying to protect my sister. But when you say this is ancient history, it's not. It's very lived. This is stuff that's happening to us because it's present.
Absolutely.
I was blown away by that. I had no and especially too in a culture where she was wearing these long, beautiful braids. And it's a culture that I know sees hair as truly sacred and also as almost a protest because they were constantly forced to cut it off. So to be like regifted that trauma was hard to see. Anyway, so hair is such an interesting thing. It comes out in so many different dynamics. And from that, I was constantly receiving this idea of like, maybe she needs to cut my hair. Maybe grandma needs to cut my hair. And I looked looked up many times that that was culturally not okay for me to do that. So didn't do it. Still trying to listen and understand. But we ended up letting that thought sort of present itself. And I recently let my daughter cut my hair. And we had our own awareness of releasing what no longer served us, releasing ideas that were holding us and others back, and releasing trust to the environment. So the way that we navigated that was letting it be loving and fun and have my daughter do it. And then we buried it. So I gave it to the earth, let the birds take it for their nest, and released things and tried to open my mind to listening and awareness. But hair is so interesting.
Yeah.
It also has such an a physical response. I know for me right now, I had very long hair, and so now I'm playing with it, and I'm like, my hand just stops. All of a sudden, it's air, and I'm like, what is this?
Every time you're holding the space, you're literally holding space for that woman. Yeah, you could feel it exactly, the pieces that are on your body and the pieces that aren't anymore. And I think you nailed, to me, the love in her story, that that history lives with you. That history on the Yakama Nation where you're living now is now living in your body because you heard the story of a woman who had a grandmother and a mother who went through that. And that pain that she held is still rippling, and that might ripple forever. And the ways that we're holding it are continually growing. Just to hear your story is very beautiful, and it touches me really deeply because it's very hard to grapple with another culture. And even though I grew up listening to my grandma, my Kafa Mimi, talk about the culture, and I think she spoke in that language they said she never talked in again when it was whipped out of her. I remember her speaking. It's still sensitive for me to approach the nation growing up away from that reservation. I love that you honored a story of pain in a way that was honoring for your culture and the ones around you.
I would love to hear a little bit more about, do you say kafa? Is that how you say grandma?
Kasla, yeah.
Ugh,
Kasla.
so
Oh, yeah.
cool. That is interesting because I do see in you a really talk about gutted. This is something that you literally hold in your core.
Mm.
You're 50-50, right? So you're a bridge.
75, 25, 50. Yes.
Man, you are the American melting pot. You're everything, right? We're all such a blend now, which is so beautiful. But in terms of like in your roots, it's interesting when you have roots growing in different directions. Are you feeling rooted and grounded, or are you feeling pulled, or are you feeling all of it?
This last year, I went on what you could call a spirit journey. So, yeah, I went back to the reservation. I went right there, almost in a sense of grief, looking for that kafla who died when I was 4, in that instinctual way we search for people when they're suddenly gone. I never grieved because a lot of times as children, just as elderly people who might be on the outer edge, we don't get the opportunity to grieve and to let our voices be heard and to hear what is going on. So it gave me a sense of rooting in to be back home among those mountains in Yakima. And I talked to Dom. That's what I call the mountain. It means mountain in Polish.
I
Dom.
love that.
So being home gave me a sense of roots in that grounding native culture. I also felt closer to my mom's side of the family with the more European side of the culture, Caucasian. But one flyaway route I have, that African American side, isn't touched upon. And because I didn't grow up with that culture, funny enough, I don't feel it as much somatically. I don't get those generational twinges to go dig roots in the spring, that kind of thing, from that African American side. So it doesn't hold as much of my heart because I wasn't raised with the language,
Mm.
but it definitely makes me wonder what it would feel like to grow up in a culture where all the roots were dug in. I knew the grieving practices, I knew the living practices, and the way the color of my eyes reflects my ancestors. What if the way my body longs to live could be practiced as well? I do wonder.
I also wonder if that part of you that you're mentioning, maybe not feeling as deeply, just isn't awake yet. Because
Yeah.
I would say, we talk a lot about waves and the importance of water to both of us. And in my short time of being, I feel like I've had different waves and different chapters of experiences and things and different awakenings. And so what I'm sort of thinking about as you're sharing that is, my dad is adopted, and his adopted side is very much like straight off the boat from Ireland. His grandma came by herself as an 18-year-old, got started like helping by raise turkeys, like, like the normal, good old fashioned, like came by herself from Ireland story. But so is his bio family. And so I have this curiosity of, if I like go to Ireland, is it going to be the motherland? Is it going to like wake me up? Like, is it gonna stir something in me? And part of me also just is so trusting of Mama Gaia or the universe or source or whatever we want to talk about, that I will be given the like quiet light that I need to take the step I need, one step at a time. So I just wonder if maybe that piece is not lost in you, or it didn't really come through, or isn't it something that you don't relate to so much as it's sleeping.
Yeah, maybe it's symbolism itself. It's just a voice that's silenced right now. And
Mm,
maybe it will go
yeah,
7 generations down, that voice will be loud again. I love
yeah.
that trust you have. And I think a lot of the reason you have such a light with you is that you believe that you do. That's so amazing
Yeah.
to me how you bring the light you hold in many ways.
I do love the idea of light. I actually, it's so funny. My card this morning, so I have a really gentle deck on my desk that gives just really gentle images. And today it's about light. So I'm going to share it because it's funny that that's coming through. And it's, I think, relevant to what you just shared. And it's literally the silent flame. It's about presence, quiet illumination, and subtle clarity. And it says, a flame need not flicker loudly to light your way.
A flame need not flicker loudly to light your way.
Sometimes trusting our little quiet knowing, our quiet guides. I'm just leaving that there.
I'd love to sit with that for a moment.
Mhm.
The implications of light being sound.
Walk me through that. I love this.
I have a tattoo on my arm, and it is adding a little frequency and resonance to an image of water because I love the idea of water connecting us all as an energetic life force. Also, the three lines symbolize connection of heart and mind. But the frequency and resonance reminds me of the rhythm that connects us all. Water is music, flame is music. And I really love the idea of being guided, even when our eyes are closed, by listening for the light.
What's making my eyes warm, which I like to call my vibrational affirmations, is what I would say when I hear that. When I hear something that I think resonates, my eyes get hot and sometimes water a little. And it's that vibrational confirmation, it's what you're talking about, and it's that same thing that I would say so when you were mentioning I wish I had the transcript of how you said, "If water is the vibration, the light" can you say what I don't remember what you
I
but
don't remember either.
what you were saying was basically like the light is too, and in my mind, the visual I had was when you were talking about the water ripples, the flame is the dance. So if water's the music to me, the flame is the dance. It's
Yes.
modes, right?
My
And so that's the visual that I have in my body. And I think that
Mhm.
we all have to do that. We all have this internal flame. We are all built from elements. We are all of this shared frequency. And I am like so determined that one day we will all recognize that we are a single source. We are all connected and we share these vibrations. And until we are all ready to recognize that, what I would love to do in this space is recognize and empathize with the vibrations that we share with others. Hold space for those, love each other through it, give them space. And that's what I'm looking forward to doing with you on this podcast.
Same. It's been great chatting today. I feel like you seem to reach into my heart and bring out the roots of what's really in there, everything from what's been painful to what gives me the most joy. And sitting with you is some of the most joy I've had. Brings me back to the mountaintop of the simple moments that I would forget about. Why not climb a mountain, Becca, and look at the stars?
I was so grateful you did that. I know we're about to leave, but I do love that you said that. I want to share our little origin story as we get ready to depart for today. The beautiful Sydney was asked to support a women's wellness weekend up at a camp that I grew up at. So, a camp that holds my roots. I think I went there from when I was younger than my daughter, definitely young elementary school. Went there through college, continued to be a camp counselor there. Was there when I found out my brother died. Like, it is a sacred space. And you are an absolute gift and a sacred gift to me that I met there. And I loved that I went there by myself, not sure what I'd find, but confidence in the space, confidence in the mountain that even solo, it's okay. I'm in the safest space in the world. I'm in my happy place. I can sit by myself by the lake and to stumble into Sydney, who was there to teach yoga and hold space and just be, and then to have this instant, like, hey, you want to go climb the mountain? You want to sleep under the stars? Will you jump in the lake with me? Do you want to go do some yoga? Should we paint? And just
Yeah.
this instant like heart link was such a gift. And so I'm so thankful for the gift that you bring to this world through your existence, through the spaces that you hold and create. And I am so excited to start this journey with you.
Thank you, Becca. One version of namaste I've heard is the light in me sees the light in you. Namaste to you and to everyone here.
Namaste.